Welcome back, folks. Please be seated. I apologize for the delay in getting you folks out here this morning. I will forewarn you that we're taking some witnesses out of order at this point in time, basically to accommodate as many witnesses as quickly as possible. So Mr. McEnroe will be resuming the stand sometime later this week to pick up where we left off. And Mr. Presti is getting the next witness, so if you wouldn't mind bearing with us for a moment. Thank you. Presti, if you'd call your next witness, please.
Yes, the defense calls Sean Johnson.
All right, Ms. Johnson, if you could step up here, please. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
If you just raise your right hand, I need to swear you in, okay?
Okay.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Please have a seat, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ma'am, you're going to need to speak up a little bit.
Okay.
Let me move this microphone so that you can just try that. Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please state your name and spell it for the record?
Sean Johnson, SeanJohnson.
And ma'am, could you just state your address for the record, please?
731 Southwest Salmon Street, Portland, Oregon, 97205, apartment 516.
And are you related to Joe McEnroe?
I'm his mother.
Okay. Why don't you tell us, first of all, if you would, how old are you, ma'am?
57.
Okay. And tell us just very briefly, where were you born?
Philadelphia,
And where did you spend most of your life growing up?
California,
Okay, what town would that be?
Santa Clara.
Okay. And again, just try to keep your voice up. I know that it's easy to forget.
Okay.
You a little nervous about being here today?
Yes.
Okay. That makes you just like every other witness who has sat in that chair before you. Ma'am, how many children do you have?
4.
Would you please give us their names, and maybe you should just tell us what year they were born so we can try to figure out how old they are.
Joseph, born in 78. Christopher, born in 82. Ian, born in 89, and Sarah, 90.
Okay. So Sarah's your daughter, your only daughter, right?
Right,
And she's about 25 years old now, or close to it?
close.
Okay. You know what Joe has been convicted of doing, right?
Yes, I do.
Killing 6 innocent people?
Yes.
How did you hear the news that this incident had happened and that Joe was accused of it?
A reporter called me on the phone,
Where were you living at the time?
Minnesota.
And who were you living with?
Alan Johnson, Ian, and Sarah,
Okay, and who is Alan Johnson?
my ex-husband.
Okay, he was your husband at the time?
Yes.
Okay. What did you think when you heard that Joe was involved in this?
I didn't believe him.
Why not?
Joe didn't seem like a person that would do that.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Very generally, what was Joe like as a child?
He was fun. He was very quiet. He enjoyed reading. He had, at the age of 8, he had a 12-year-old. He could read up to regular books.
At the age of 8, he could?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And very, very smart. And very helpful.
How was he helpful?
He helped, I would be walking to jobs or going to school, and he babysit for me and help clean house and stuff.
Okay. Let me ask you, I want to ask you a little bit about what the conditions were like when he was growing up, okay? So first of all, who is Joe's father?
Amory File,
Okay, could you just spell his last name, please?
Fryer.
Okay. And how did you meet Mr. Fryer?
I met him when I was 12 years old and had a crush. He was dating my sister. When I was 20, he came back to talk to my father because they were friends too, and see how Chitty was, my sister.
Your sister's name is Trudy?
Yes.
Okay. Would you just tell us just the names, just give us the names of your own siblings and how old they are in relation to you?
Jim McEnroe, I think 63. No,
Why don't you tell us what year they were born if you know?
don't know, don't remember.
Why don't you just give us their names then?
Okay. Jim, Mary, Bill, Trudy, me, and Regina.
Okay. And is Regina the youngest one there?
Yes.
And are you the next youngest?
Yes.
How much younger than you is Regina?
2 years.
Okay. And Jim was the first one you named. Is he the oldest one?
Yes.
And then is Mary next in line?
Yes.
Okay. So Amory had been dating Trudy, and then later on he came back and you got together with him?
Yes.
And what was your relationship like with Mr. Fryer?
We were dating and future kind of thing, planning a future
You were
together.
planning the future? Okay. When you got pregnant, did he he stay around? Was he involved in parenting Joe at all?
No.
Just tell us what the circumstance was there, please.
I got pregnant. Chitty told me that he was married.
And so then what happened?
He also denied that that it was his child.
Okay, so after Joe was born, was he involved at all in raising Joe?
No.
Okay. There was a lot of testimony, there has been a lot of testimony, that maybe Joe had something of a hard childhood. Okay?
Yeah.
What is your opinion of that? Do you agree with that or do you disagree?
Probably, maybe. I tried not to. I had 4 children and I was by myself.
Okay. So you tried to give him a good life, right?
Right.
And when you say probably, maybe, I tried not to. Tell us about the probably or the maybe. Why would you say that?
I had different men in Joe's life. And I found out they weren't any good, so my kids always came first.
Kids always came first?
Yes.
Tell us how you would meet these men. Was there? Tell us how you would meet men and why you were meeting different men.
I met a couple at work through dating system, the computer or newspaper.
Well, let me ask you something. Joe was born in 1978, is that right?
Right.
And Chris is the next oldest boy, next oldest child. You were
Right.
born in 82.
Yeah.
Okay. What was Joe's life like in those first couple years before Chris came around? Where were you living and who was there?
I was living with my mom and my dad, and Joe was very smart and was very happy. I taught him how to sing Tiny Bubbles when he was 3. It was really cute.
Sean, were you there the whole time? Did you leave it for any periods of time before Chris was born?
Yeah.
What was the circumstance there?
I had met a man and he put me in really bad debt, and a friend of his brother and him told me that I should leave because the debtors were calling and stuff like that. And
How did he get you in so much debt?
he put $3,000 in my checking account, and we were supposed to be married, and he we changed it to his joint account. He took the money and took everything, even stole my car and took everything out of it and left me in debt.
So, Sean, were you away for some period of time because of that? Were you away from where Joe was?
About 3 months.
Where did you go?
Down south, around Disneyland.
Around Disneyland, so Los
Yeah.
Angeles area?
Yeah,
And where was Joe during that period?
with my mom and dad.
Okay. Would you, let me ask you this. as a general rule, how often would you be meeting new men or bringing them into the kids' lives?
Every other year, maybe.
Okay. Were they appropriate guys to be bringing in, do you think, now in retrospect, or not?
No.
And why do you say that?
I try to fix men.
You what?
I try to fix them. I have a Nightingale syndrome.
Oh, what?
Nightingale syndrome. I see bad, guys that need help, and I try to help them.
So, are you saying Nightingale?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to ask you, I'm sorry, this is a little bit personal, but you have a bit of a speech problem, right?
Yes.
Who else has that? Does anybody else in your family have that?
I believe Joe might, and Chris.
Did anybody that came before you have it? Any of your relatives?
No. Also, my dentures are really loose.
Okay, sorry about that. That probably doesn't make it any easier. As Joe was growing up, were any of the men that were brought into the house, did they ever cause any problems? Were they, and how did you said you have a Nightingale syndrome and you try to change men. What were these men like?
They weren't very solid in their job situation.
Okay.
And I thought they had good hearts, but they didn't.
What kind of work were you doing as Joe was growing up?
I was managing McDonald's, and worked at McDonald's and Burger King and fast food and regular restaurants, and cashiering. I also went to school for several things.
What did you go to school for?
Restaurant management and veterinary assistant.
Did you work as a veterinary assistant?
No, I broke my arm and couldn't pick up anything.
Okay. As Joe's siblings came along, what was life like around the house? You were working some of the time, it sounds like. Was that your only source of income, or were there other sources?
I got assistance from the state.
Public assistance? Okay.
Yeah.
And what was it like for several years? It was just Joe and Chris, right?
Right.
And did they get along with each other?
Yeah.
Okay. Was there ever any, that you know of, was there ever any physical abuse of Joe?
No.
Anybody ever disciplined him?
Yeah.
Okay, well, like who and what?
One used shaving cream in the mouth one time, and he was out completely when I found about that.
Remember that guy's name?
Mark,
Mark?
I believe,
And where were you living for that?
in Santa Clara.
Okay. Who else?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Ever any other examples of inappropriate discipline that you can think of relating to Joe? Or relating to any of the kids?
Chris has dyslexia, and the one guy that I lived in, Colorado, when it was Joe too. he would make them write a lot and get mad at Chris because, and I'm not sure what he did.
Were you physically abused by any of these guys?
Yes, the one in Colorado.
The guy in Colorado?
Yeah, I only stayed with him 1 month and we left.
And where did you go when you left him?
Back to Homestead Apartments.
Is that in California?
Yes,
Okay. How many times have you been married, Sean?
2.
Okay, and who were the people that you were married to?
John Jones, Sarah's father, and
Whose father? Sarah's father?
yeah, and Alan Johnson.
Okay. So tell us about John Jones. How did you meet him and where was that?
He was working for Kathy Cote,
And who is that?
a friend of mine, my apartment manager, and I was pregnant with Ian, and I felt like I should have a father and for the baby, and he seemed a good heart, and he was trying to walk, and I thought, okay, with hormones and stuff.
Well, there was some testimony, Sean, that John Jones was holding a will work for food sign. Do you know anything about that?
I didn't know at the time.
You didn't know that?
Oh, I don't remember.
How did you learn that?
I don't remember.
Okay. Tell us about John Jones. You were in Santa Clara when you met him?
Yes,
And did you move at all with him to a different place?
Arizona.
Tell us how that came about, please.
He took Joe to Arizona because he thought he had a friend that would give him a job, and he said if he took Joe, that would make sure that we'd be connected, that he wouldn't just leave me, that he would come back.
He said that to you?
Yeah.
And what was your response to that?
Well, I was pregnant with Sarah at that time, and
Pregnant with Sarah or pregnant with Ian?
pregnant with Sarah.
Okay.
And I said, okay, and he did. I forget how long he was gone. But he did come back and left Joe down there with some people who seemed like good people. I'm not sure. I never asked him about that. I'm sorry.
And so you made it down to Arizona, is that right?
Yeah,
And now at this point, Ian had been born, so he's, what, a little baby?
he was one.
Okay, so in what year did you say Ian was born?
89.
Okay, so at that point, Joe would have been roughly 10 or 11?
Yeah,
Okay. And what was life like in Arizona?
hot. We lived in a little tiny, 20 miles from a little tiny town called Sarita, which was 20 miles away from Phoenix. I was very pregnant, and we lived out on a farm with an older lady who was letting us live in her house. We were supposed to get a mobile home and move it out there. and he was supposed to be working for her.
Who was supposed to be working for her?
John.
Okay.
And he left me. John left to go to work, and he never came back. I was 2 weeks before I was pregnant, and Ian's birthday, first birthday.
Okay. So what did you do? Did you stay down there in Arizona?
I moved to Phoenix after the baby was born. 2 months after we moved back to California.
How'd you get back to California?
Red Cross.
They provided bus fare or something?
Yeah.
Okay. So at this point, Ian and Sarah have been born. What was Joe's role like in the household?
He helped me take care of the little ones.
Of the little ones?
Yeah.
Did Chris help with that too?
Yes. But it was mostly put on Joe
Why is that?
because he was older.
Okay. And did he do anything other than look after the little ones? What else might he have done around the house?
He helped clean, did his job, did his homework.
Did he get along with the kids?
Yeah.
How did he discipline them? Did you ever witness that?
He just put him in the chair and put him on timeout the way I told him to.
Did you ever see him get violent with any of the kids?
Oh, no.
Sean, there's been testimony that you were verbally abusive to Joe, name calling and that sort of thing. Is that true or is that not true?
I don't believe I ever called him or verbally abused.
How would you handle discipline? I know you said you told Joe about timeout. Is that what you would use, or did you use something else?
I put him in timeout after when they were 3 to about 5. I give them a couple of smacks on the butt, but when they're past 5, I figure they have enough sense that they know they're going to get smacked on the butt.
Do you think your kids were ever in danger by any of the men that were in and out of the house?
If I did, they would be gone.
Did Joe or Chris have any role in what was it like with Joe dealing with these men? Did he get along with them or not? What was it like?
He got along with some of them, and some of them he didn't, and they were excused.
They were excused?
Yeah.
Meaning you asked them to leave?
Yeah.
Did Joe's role in the household change as a man would come in or out?
Sometimes.
Could you explain that, please?
He could, sometimes he could act more like a kid.
Explain that some more.
They didn't have to worry, Joe didn't have to worry about the kids so much.
When there was a man in the house?
Yeah.
Who were your main people that you leaned on for emotional support growing up? Who did you talk to about your problems?
My mom and dad, my sister Mary.
Okay, what year did your mom pass away?
82.
Okay, so after she had passed away.
Oh, 80. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Did you continue talking to your dad after your mom passed away, or did he get remarried or anything?
He got married when Joe was 7 or 6, 7 or 8. I'm not sure.
Who was he
2.
married, and what was the relationship like with her?
Elva, and I was living with my dad, and she didn't like me or my kids, and so I was writing to the guy in Colorado, and we left
Colorado.
for Colorado.
Sean, who were Joe's main male role models as he grew up?
Michael Bates and John Jones and Martin Evans.
Who was Martin, and what was he like?
Martin was my sister's boyfriend, Mary, and we lived with them for about 5 years. And he was very nice.
Was he involved a lot with your kids?
Yes.
How frequently?
Day to day.
And Mary had kids of her own, right?
Right.
So was he involved with them too?
Yes.
Will you tell us who Michael Bates is, please?
He worked with, no, I met him when I was managing Burger King,
And where were you?
Tacoma.
Tacoma, Washington.
Oh, no, Bones, Washington, yeah.
Sean, could it be Burien?
Burien, thank you.
That's okay. And what was Mike Bates like?
He was a very good man, and then I found out he was deeply troubled, had a lot of personal problems.
How long were you with Mike Bates?
3 years? 2 years.
I'm sorry?
2 years or 3,
Was he living in the house with you?
yes.
And so by the time you were in Burien, Joe was about how old?
16 to 18.
Right? Did you see Joe interact with any young women as he was growing up? And if so, what was that like?
When was getting kicked out, Joe was working with me at Burger King, and she was also working there.
And who is this?
Shauna,
Shauna. Okay.
and she was very teasing him all the time. And
In what way?
she had to move in with us because her mom kicked her out, and she was very pretty, but Joe had a crush on her, and she just go out with different boys, but she tell Joe how nice he was and stuff like that. Walk around in bikinis and stuff, and
So was she and Joe like girlfriend and boyfriend?
no, but he was hoping, and she just used that to get what she wanted.
Okay. Did he stand up for himself in that relationship that you know of?
I think so. I'm the one that threw her out, though, because this teasing was getting a little.
Okay. When you left Washington State, where did you move to?
Phoenix, back to Phoenix.
Okay. And why did you move down there?
I was online with, my husband, and he was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a job, and he found me, and I was looking for a jo somebody,
What was his name?
Bob,
Okay.
I think, yeah.
All right, and did you go down there and meet him?
Yes,
Did the family go with you?
yes.
At this point, Joe is roughly how old?
20?
Okay. There was testimony that you guys, your family was evicted from many places or often had trouble paying the rent and things as Joe was growing up. Is that true or not true?
It's true.
Was that, how frequent an occurrence was that?
Maybe every other year I lose a job and I didn't have money, so we get evicted.
Was there ever any problems keeping the utilities on, power and water and lights and things?
I got assistance sometimes.
Okay, but sometimes those bills got a little bit behind.
Yes.
Why did Joe leave Arizona eventually?
Yes.
And why did he leave?
Because Al and him talked. Al told me that sometimes he would tell me that Joe said he wanted to go, and then sometimes he'd tell me that he told him to go.
So Al Johnson, where did you meet him?
He was my next door neighbor's volleyball.
Father?
Yes,
And where was that?
in Arizona.
And how did that relationship turn out?
We were married 10 years, and I found out that he was raping my 15-year-old daughter.
When did you find that out?
In 2011.
And how did you find that out?
We were watching TV. My daughter had a baby. He got in a fight with Sarah, called her really bad names, and then turned to me and said, well, Sarah is a whore because she's been with me since she was 15, and the baby is his.
So, are you still with Al Johnson?
No,
Okay. This happened, though, with Sarah after Joe was already out of the house, right?
yes,
Did anything like that happen to your knowledge before Joe left the house?
no,
Okay. And did you learn about that incident at all before this incident with the television when you were watching television?
no. I didn't know anything.
Sarah was pregnant, though, right?
Sarah had the baby. She said that she had it by a boyfriend.
Okay. Did you have any contact with Joe after he left home in Arizona?
About a year or two,
What kind of contact was that?
he would call me.
And did you have exchange letters or cards or anything like that?
I sent things to him.
Did you ever have contact with Michelle Anderson?
No, once,
Once?
yes.
Could you describe that, please?
I was talking to Joe. He said he'll talk to, I think it was Michelle, and she sounded like an all right girl.
Where was Joe living at the time that happened?
South Carolina.
Do you know what year it was that you had that contact?
No,
I'm sorry, did you actually spoke to her on the phone or not?
yeah,
And did you have any contact with him after that?
Yes.
After you spoke to him and Michelle on the phone, you had contact with him?
Yeah.
And what was that?
Just regular phone calls he would make to me.
Before or after he was in jail?
He called me in jail.
From jail?
Yeah.
Did you have any contact with him after that time that you talked with him and Michelle, and when this incident happened and these murders happened and he wound up in jail?
Just when he was down in South Carolina, he would contact me. Then he was moved to Washington, and I heard from him a couple of times.
How long was it?
No, I didn't hear from you in Washington.
When you got that phone call when you were in Minnesota, how long was it since you had heard from Joe?
5 years?
And did you at some point move out of Minnesota?
Yes.
And where did you move to?
Washington,
What city in Washington?
Everett.
How long did you live in Everett?
A year? No, 3 years.
Okay. And from Everett you moved to where?
Portland,
While you were in Everett, did you visit Joe in jail?
several times.
Do you know how many times?
About 5,
Okay.
maybe.
Sean, why? It sounds like things weren't perfect as Joe was growing up. Is that right?
Yeah,
But did you try?
I did.
You tried your best?
Yeah,
Okay. And why are you testifying here?
because I love Joe. And I don't believe he could have done this, but it's already proved. And I'm still proud of him as a man he was. And this was just a fluke.
Defendant's exhibits 302A through 302G have been marked for identification.
And before we finish here, I'm going to just show you a couple of pictures and ask if you can recognize them. Okay, and the numbers are on the back. So I'm going to show you 302D. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, this is Joe. He just came, he was about 3 months, I believe.
Okay. And I'm going to show you 302C. What is
Yes.
that a photo of?
This is Joe at 5.
And he's and how about 302B? What is that a picture of?
Joseph in preschool.
In preschool?
Yes.
Okay. And how about 302E?
This is Joe and Chris.
About how old are they there?
7 and 5.
7 and 5?
Yeah.
And how about 302F? What is that a photo of?
Sarah and Ian playing on Joe's head.
Okay. About how old are Sarah and Ian in your estimation?
Ian is 1 and Sarah's about 4 months.
Okay, and finally, did I show you 302A? Let me show you 302A.
Joe in 2nd grade, I believe. Yeah.
And finally, would you please identify 302G, what is that a photograph of?
My family, my 3 boys and my girl.
Okay, and are all those photos fair and accurate representations of the individuals depicted in them?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I move for admission into evidence of 302A through G.
Any objection, Mr. Principal?
No, Your Honor.
All right, they're admitted. Thank you.
May I publish, Your Honor?
Certainly, go right ahead.
I'm just going to put these up briefly for the jury to see. So that is a picture of Joe as a baby, is that correct?
Yes.
That's 302D. And then picture of Joe here with the Porsche is 302C.
Yes.
Remember where that photo was taken?
I think in Santa Clara at my father's house.
Now, let me ask you something. There's just something a little unusual about that photo. I'm going to show the original to Mr. O'Toole because I don't think you can quite see it on the elbow. And with the court's permission, I'd like to just pass it around the jury.
Sure, the photograph's been admitted, so go right ahead.
Thank you. Sean, I'm just going to ask you about Joe's teeth and how they appear in that picture, and I'm going to just take a look, and then I'd like to pass it around the jury because I don't think you can see it on the Elmo. This is 302C. Just ask that the jurors briefly pass that around. What is unusual about Joe's teeth in that photograph?
At the age of 1 and 2, he had a disease which was called ITP. I don't know the long
That's okay. What is
name.
ITP?
It's when his antibodies ate up his platelets, and he, it's platelets ate up his, yeah, they ate, and he was bleeding to death. He didn't have anything to clog and his vessels, and he went down to, instead of having 900,000, he went down to 20,000.
So how does that relate to how his teeth appear in that photograph?
Well, they gave him steroids to counteract this medicine, and
did that affect his teeth?
yeah,
Which of his teeth did it affect?
his front
Did it change?
mainly.
Did it change how they appeared?
Yeah, they put silver caps on him
Why did they do that?
because his teeth were badly damaged.
And so, how long did those caps stay on those front teeth?
Till he was about 6, and when the children's teeth, his adult teeth are good.
So when his adult teeth came in, his baby teeth fell out, and then his adult teeth were normal?
Yeah.
Is that, okay. And then just briefly to go through the rest of these photos, this is 302B. What does that depict?
Him in preschool.
Okay. And how about 302E?
That's him and Chris. They just got their haircut.
Okay. And how about 302F?
That's Ian and Sarah.
Is Joe the one on the floor?
Yes, and Joe. Yes.
Okay. And this looks like maybe a school photograph, 302A, is that right?
Yes.
And some of these photographs have notations on the back. This one says, I think it says 5th grade, 1988, 1989. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. And finally, this is 302G. that the one that depicts all four of your kids?
Yes.
Doesn't show up quite as well as we'd like to on the Elmo, but okay. And Sean, just for clarification, who are the fathers of your other children? And do they remain involved at all in raising children?
No.
Who were the fathers of the other children?
Richard Dutra, it's Christopher's. Don McSwan is Ian's. And John Jones.
That's Sarah's.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions. Mr. O'Toole's going to have some questions for you, though.
Okay.
And Mr. O'Toole, cross-examination.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Johnson.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Okay.
I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions to follow up on some questions that Mr. Presti asked you. Is that okay?
Okay.
All right. Let me hand you, I don't know if this is part of the exhibit that was given to me. These are what? These are something.
You want to mark this as separate exhibit?
Yeah, and they actually, Mr. Presti gave me an extra copy, so maybe I'll just use that extra copy rather than some sections.
Mr. O'Toole, do you want the original? Yeah. Want the original?
State's Exhibit 303.
Thank you. There we go. Sorry about that. I'm going to hand you what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibit number 303. I'm just going to ask you if that picture looks familiar to you.
No.
Do you know anybody in that picture at all?
Joseph.
And what can you describe what he looks like and what he's wearing in that picture?
He has long hair and a beard and a t-shirt and jeans.
How do you recognize him in that picture? Is that the way he looked when you knew him working at the Burger King, places like that? Or
No.
how did he look then?
He was very clean cut.
So have you ever known him to look like the way he looks in that photograph?
No.
Take that back. Do you know who the other people are in the photograph?
No.
You were, I think you had made a phone call to a detective yesterday and chatted with him over the phone. Am I correct about that?
I returned the phone call, yes.
And you talked to him for maybe about half an hour or so?
Yes.
Does that sound right? And do you remember his name?
I have a very bad memory.
No, that's fine. With the name Detective Scott Tompkins, would that
Yes.
sound right? All right. And when you talked to Detective Tompkins yesterday, you talked about that you kind of have a bad memory.
Yes.
And I think you may have mentioned to him, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you have a hard time recalling dates and names and sometimes facts?
Yes.
And the reason I ask that is, and I don't mean to, I'm not trying to embarrass you, but I think you told him you're on some medication now,
Yes,
and that you...
because I have lupus and rheumatoid arthritis and fibromyalgia.
And I think you told Detective Tompkins that you were told, I think, by your doctor that those are going to affect your memory and your ability to recall.
Yes.
Okay. Have you found that that's been the case this morning? Is there a tough time recalling some of these facts? Or?
Some of them.
All right. Let me then ask you a little bit about Mr. McEnroe, your son's upbringing. You said, I think to us this morning, he was very bright.
Yes.
And did you say that he could read a full book at the age of 8?
Yes.
And I thought you said something about, correct me if I'm wrong, this morning, he could read a full book at the age of 8, and you said something like, is that equal to a 12-year-old or to a 12th grader? I didn't quite understand.
Yeah, about 12th grade.
So when he was 8 years old, he was so smart he could actually read a book that would be appropriate for a 12th grader.
Yes.
Okay. And I think you may have mentioned to Detective Tompkins yesterday that that your son actually began to read when he was 3.
Yes.
And were there other sort of examples of how smart he was or how capable he was that you can think of?
Yeah. I could things from his school, his graphs that would tell me.
So like his grades and things like that?
Yes.
And when you say graphs, are you talking about like, I don't know what they call them, like these percentile graphs where
Yes.
they tell you where your child ranks and all that stuff?
Yes.
And every parent thinks their child's at the top of the graph?
Well, he was.
He was? Okay, fair enough. How high up was he? Do you remember?
Second in college.
As
Was
like a second year in college?
Yeah, when he was in 10th grade.
Okay. It sounds like you were pretty proud of him as a student.
Yes.
I think that when you talked to Detective Tompkins yesterday, he asked you about why your son left high school. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And I think you told Detective Tompkins it was because he'd had a lot of, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of nosebleeds or some health issues,
Yes.
and he'd missed a lot of school.
Yes.
And I think Detective Tompkins asked you, do you remember where something happened where he left his books and his books were all stolen so he couldn't go back to school, and you said you didn't recall that ever happening?
No, I don't remember that.
All right. And I think you mentioned to Detective Tompkins yesterday, he asked you about spirit guides, and I think you said that you're somewhat aware of that. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Okay. And I think he asked you about Crow. Do you recall him asking you that?
Yes.
And you told him about, I think, when your son was very, very tiny, like 1 or 2 years old.
No, he was a baby.
Oh, excuse me. So less than 1 year old?
Yes.
He was, and he had that health condition, which caused him to cry.
No, he didn't
Okay.
have a health condition then.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. He was a baby,
Right.
and he was crying,
Right.
and he was upstairs in a room,
Right.
and there were some crows that were kind of pecking on the window.
He, I heard banging at the window, and I was trying to figure out what was going on, and ran upstairs, and there were several crows knocking at the window, trying to get to the baby crow that was crying inside.
And you were thinking the crows heard the crying, and they thought that was a baby
Yeah.
crow. All right. When did you tell Joe that all about that? How old was he?
Oh, I've told him it was sort of a
Sort of a family story?
family story, yeah.
So was he surprised when you told him about it?
No, because he was told when he was about real young. And,
Oh, so you told him when he was real young, and you guys have always sort of talked about that as a family story.
Yeah,
And remember Detective Tompkins asked you yesterday about a character, a person named Crow. Do you recall that?
yes,
And I think you told Detective Tompkins that you knew nothing else about a character named Crow or anything like that, other than you're familiar with the movie, The Crow.
Right.
And I think you said that your son liked to dress up as the character in the movie The Crow.
Right.
But other than that, you didn't know anything else about a crow or someone named Crow.
Right.
And I'm going to ask you one other couple of questions. I think you talked with Detective Tompkins yesterday a bit about your children's upbringing, and he asked you about CPS. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And he asked you about an incident where you had asked a lady to watch over, I think it was Christopher and Sarah, and you were taking Joe to the doctor?
I asked, what happened is that I was going to school, I was doing midterms, and I was walking, so the house wasn't really neat. But Sarah and Ian both had a little earache and little colds, and it was winter, so I figured Chris could watch the kids. My sister Mary was downstairs or upstairs in her apartment, and so was her girls. And Joe had a really bad neck ache, and Kaiser was only 2 blocks away. So I figured I'd only be an hour. And a friend of mine called CPS on me at that time.
And that's when you and Joe were off at the doctor's?
Right,
And you'd left Chris to watch the little ones?
right. He was 11.
And did your friend who was supposed to check in on the kids, did she not check in, or is she the one who called CPS?
No, my sister was supposed to just peek in on them.
And it was somebody else who called CPS?
Yes,
And as I understand it, what had happened was the little ones, maybe Chris as well, had kind of trashed the house.
yeah,
And you said something about sunflower seeds.
all over the place.
I'm assuming the sunflower seeds were not all over the place when you went to the doctor's.
No, the house was kid messed up, but not. The cushions were neatly, and the dishes were done, and everything, but
So it sounds like CPS came out and they took the kids,
right,
and I think you said that was on a Friday,
right,
and they said, hey, would you mind getting everything cleaned up? And you did.
yes,
And I think you told somebody that you cleaned up was immaculate.
yeah,
And then CPS brought the kids back on the following Monday.
right,
And I think if I remember correctly, you said, other than that, there was no other CPS involvement with your kids.
right.
Okay. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And redirect Mr. Brescia.
One moment.
Sure.